Okay, folks. If you don't know about the Mica Miller situation at the Solid Rock Church in South Carolina and the craziness going on with her husband, who was the pastor of that church, and the craziness of his daddy, who started that church and went to jail over federal charges, the daddy of the son pastor. Uh, I would go check out a channel like, I think it's JLC Investigations, or you can just look up Mica Miller uh, uh, and take a look-see at the situation and the case. What nobody's talking about with concerns to any of this, was she a done-in wife? Did she have a bad husband? Yes, certainly. Uh, I'm not going to tiptoe with what I'm going to say, though. The bigger picture, how do these things, why are these things allowed to happen in so many churches and Christian communities today? That's not getting touched on, and I intend to touch on it. And I will continue to do so. Uh, Things like this were almost unheard of when I was a young fella. Uh, we had, well, when I was young, we did have the Jim Jones tragedy. He takes 1,700 people with him to South America, and they supposedly commit suicide, which I'll never believe that they committed suicide. We have had Jim Baker and the PTL Club, which was out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and all the badness and filth with him, and people just flocking in like clapping seals, wanting to see all the pretty entertainment. Well, today you got churches like that Solid Rock Church down there in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Uh, I say down there because from a little north of there, but I'm way further south than that church right now in South America. Uh, Church is not a place to go sit down into and feel wonderfully great and grand and see only beautiful things and hear only beautiful things and to be entertained and all these things that so many people are going to church for today. Church is not a business, so I'm going to get real here. When I first stumbled online on Mica Miller killing herself, she ended up committing suicide, or so we're told. I was sitting and I had tunnel vision on the situation. I was like, the husband's totally ruined, evil, and bad, and this pretty young wife he had, and he drove her to killing herself, and what everybody else is thinking today was what I was thinking. But I saw one video clip, and it broadened the perspective there on this with me. Now, am I taking any blame away from the husband or anything like that? No, I'm not. But I'm going to talk about how people can be this damn insane. I'm hearing things like, well, she got involuntarily committed and then went to Africa right before she killed herself. The husband must have had somebody implanted to do it. Maybe so. And that wouldn't be so far-fetched that the husband do something so bad as have her slung in a mental hospital underhandedly. Wouldn't nothing about that be out of line at all, considering that preacher's actions. Now, I'm going to tell you something right now. I saw a video of her up in that church, dressed like $1,000,000, and singing Michael Jackson songs during a church service. So, what I'm trying to say is that girl, her husband, the preacher, the daddy that started it all, the congregation, none of them are walking with my King. They feel good. They feel great about what they're doing. They have a lot of good feelings going in their hearts. And many of them, even after all of this bad, really, really egregious evil has happened, many of them are still in that church. And that's what you call class act, evil, worldly brainwashing. It's as simple as that. Satan is the driving force behind those things. And if you are in a church where they are singing rock songs, Michael Jackson songs, easy listening stuff, and entertaining you, and especially if your pastor stands up and tells you that he's on several thousand milligrams of lithium a day, and oh boy, I didn't have my medicine one day last month and this happened, that's not where you need to be going and getting any spiritual advice, any counseling of any sort. There's a time and a place for things like that. To get counseling from someone like that fella. That would be in Narcotics Anonymous meetings, or Alcoholics Anonymous, or Cocaine Anonymous, or things like that. It's not a place to be going and getting spiritual guidance, folks. It's just not. Yet people cannot get away from feeling good and entertainment. And the driving force behind all this mess is insecure people that can't go anywhere else, be accepted, or they think they can't, but they can. People that are wanting entertainment, people that are can't get around large groups of people. That are normal, and things of that nature. It's a lot of deep-rooted, sick psychological and sick in the heart trouble with people that will go to churches like that church. I've seen several of the videos and what they were doing inside that church, and I'm warning you, if you want to seek the true Christ, you got to get away from places like that. You go into a church and everything's fancy, everything's beautiful, everything's top of the line gorgeous. I would remind your ass that Jesus did not even own a bed to lay his head. You go into a church, everybody seems to be wonderfully, everything's going good for them, all the wonderfulness of everything. I'll remind you that all of, with the exception of possibly one of the apostles, were tortured to death. And then I will tell both groups, be careful going places where they're telling you hand them money and God's going to give you more back. Number one, it's not biblical. And number two, the Bible explains it very thoroughly, that the Cadillac and the new house is not coming. It won't be coming from God, however, it may be coming from Satan. And that's who you're worshiping in these churches. You are worshiping a false Christ, a very satanic false Christ. And that's not being talked about with this Mica Miller case, and it damn well needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about. God says in His holy word, He stores up His treasures for you and I in heaven. Only Satan loves money enough to con people, to tell them, you give me $3, I'm going to give you $10 back. And only misled satanic people led by a satanic spirit will go and give $3 expecting $10 back. That's not how Christ and the apostles and the new covenant works. It's not real. Did Jim Baker not teach you folks enough? Did Jim Jones not teach you folks enough? Does Kenneth Copeland? I can't get in a regular airplane. There's a satanic spirit in those things. So he has to have 5 or 6 Lear jets. Is that not showing you enough? When will people wake up to the hell that is going on and the brainwashing that is going on around them? Something is fundamentally wrong, folks. When you look at a church like Solid Rock Church in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, being voted the best place of worship 2 years in a row in all of that county down there in Myrtle Beach, where all this shit and all this hell and all this despair has been going on with the help of countless church members and church leaders aiding and abetting all that filth. Something is majorly wrong. Something is majorly wrong with you and with me, that we allow churches like that to function in our neighborhoods, our cities, our towns, our counties, and we don't openly protest them. Yeah, the satanic church has a right to exist, but you and I have a right to petition and protest the satanic church. And Christians aren't doing it. Christians are in La La Land, a fake, false love land that is filled with love, more love for the gift than it is the giver. And we had better straighten up. And a word to my Christian brothers and sisters, if you can't look around and you claim Christ, but yet you can't look around and see that the church is in a drastic end times falling away period, you're not following the real King of Kings. You're not following the real Christ. You are one of the ones that Christ is going to say, Father, they shouted my name, they spoke my name, they prayed in my name, but it wasn't me, for I never knew them. And you don't want to be in that crowd, folks. So be careful with where you go and you sit your rear to get spiritual advice, comfort, and to be taught and learn in your personal growth to get yourself to heaven. Be careful who you're listening to. Be careful of where you go in and they're telling you, give us this amount of money, God's going to give you this back. God's not going to do that. It's nowhere in the Bible. The treasures, when you give, will be stored up into heaven. And you are proving, when you love something like that and you are expecting something like that, you love the gift more than you love God. And people had better wake up. So anybody can take it. Mica Miller, that young lady was lost, and she had been lost for quite some time. It is no wonder to me that she went off in those woods and killed herself. She wasn't worshiping the one true God. Why? How do you know that? You're judging. We are to judge all things, and we are to be in discernment. And when we look at others and we don't see anything biblical going on with them, but we see shouting of Jesus, yet their life being worldly actions, you know that person doesn't have the real Christ. And it's hard enough for us to navigate this world until we die and do go to heaven, if we believe. But it's double harder when we go pile up in these churches where the love for a Cadillac, or the love for a Lincoln, or the love for a house, and the love for what they want, and a preacher standing there telling you, give to us and you'll get back more. And that's just classic loving the gift over the giver every single time, and that is not real Christianity. We are so lost in this world today. The church is in a great falling away. We know we are coming up on end times because the falling away said we would be that way. But that precious young girl, it's not a surprise to me after looking and seeing what she was actually doing in church. However, I do believe that he brainwashed her, and I do believe that he is way worse than she is. That I think his name is John Paul, the preacher down there in that church, that sumbitch needs to be drug out and tarred and feathered in front of his community and ran out of town. That's what needs to happen to that guy. Hate to, you're a Christian. Oh my God. Oh, I can't believe somebody would talk like that. If you're like that, you go on and be the way you are. But I'm not candy coating or pacifying people that are too scared to hear strong talk. I'm not doing it. And I'm going to tell all of you something. One day you're going to be hearing strong talk. And it ain't going to be coming from me. It ain't going to be coming from one of these boxers. It ain't going to be coming from a mean guy out there in the streets. It's going to be coming from the Lord. And he done it while he was on this earth. The place where he disciplined was in the temple. And how did he do that? The Bible tells us he took a whip through there and was physically striking people with the whip and cursing them. So wake up, folks. Don't be a damned loser that the only way you can get in a crowd of people and feel comfortable is with like-minded losers. I hate, maybe this ain't coming out right, but if you are a Christian and you're deeper in your walk than I am even, you'll get it. When you get the Holy Spirit upon you, when you know you are walking for Christ, there is a boldness in your timidity that comes off as arrogance and braggadocious to those whom don't have what you have in your walk. They can't carry themselves in strength like that. And that's why that pastor got out of his truck, and there's a long video of him getting out of the truck, falling on his face in the grass, doing that little baby talk, and him up in there. And another thing, You can look at him just as you could have looked at Jim Baker, just as you could have looked at Jim Jones, and just as as you could look today at somebody like Kenneth Copeland or one of them scoundrels. They look physically like swine. And God shows them, and He shows the true them. And they even look like swine. The physical appearance is pig-like. And I truly believe it's because they're overindulgent in everything they do. They have no control over the extent that they're willing to go to brainwash you, manipulate you, so they can, so you'll freely give to them, because most of them don't even have the guts enough to go out here and even be a thief. So I just wanted to say my take was way different on this thing. I'm not putting candy on it for her. I'm not putting candy on it. Another thing here, had that been my daughter, that won't be my daughter. I can guarantee you that right now. So I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for that daddy either. She was 15 years old. He allowed her to be in that church. I haven't heard her mother talk, and I'm not putting any of this mess on her dad. I'm just saying I ain't feeling badly sorry for him. But the occasion might arise that I do if I see that the mother of Mica kept him from providing proper leadership and discipline from within their home. The one thing I do know, you might not know, you might not understand this, but my daughter is not going to go out in the woods in Lumberton and blow her head off because she's married to a church pastor that is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I will not allow it. Well, you can't. The laws today. Trust me, I will not allow it. It will not happen. Not you. You operate by your system. I operate by mine. And folks don't understand me. I guess that's why we're in the combat community. They're one of the reasons that drove us into it, or that we love it so much. But we ain't the average normal Peter, Paul, or Mary walking around here, or frick or frack. So when I tell you something wouldn't happen, it wouldn't happen. So it's just I'm getting a way big different take on this thing. Although I'm feeling very bad for the girl, I feel bad for her family. I'm very angry with that husband of hers. I'm angry with that father. I'm angry with that associate pastor that's up in that church now. But I'll tell you, one thing I'm going to do is tell the truth about the whole thing. And for the people that are in that church, in Solid Rock Church in Myrtle Beach, I know some of you will see this. Don't go to the church on a church just like it in North Myrtle Beach. That ain't going to help you none. You need to sit down and realize that you've been taken for a ride, you've been brainwashed, and you haven't been letting the real God lead you, or you wouldn't have been in there in the first place. The truth hurts, but like normal, we'll continue to say it. We'll just continue to say it. So that's about all I'm going to say on this thing. Much love to my real Christian brothers and sisters. I know a lot of you are really going to understand this message. I know this message is not pleasant. I know it hurts feelings, but the truth will set you free.